So yeah, I'll be talking. So a little in my background. I'm a magician. I'm pretty much the only professional performing magician in Chattanooga. Obviously not right now with COVID going on. So I've had to adapt just like everybody else and focusing more on virtual interaction like this. And I'm currently creating a course to teach people or young magicians how to do the business side of magic, which is easily the hardest part because just about every kid has like a magic phase when they're young. And I think the reason for that is like when we grow up and we're little toddlers, and there's that old study where like a toddler will go to the edge of a table and they'll look down, they'll realize that they'll fall, that they can't just keep going on forever. They start to kind of figure out the bounds and the parameters of reality and the physical and physics and how things work and what they can and can't do. And then I think once kids get to be about like 7 years old, a lot of them have a magic phase. And I think that's a progression of that, of figuring out, wait, are there things that we can't see? Are there magical things, mystical things that can happen in almost like a fourth dimension? And I think that's where a lot of kids that want to become magicians, they kind of go into that with all this curiosity. But then once you get into it, you realize that unfortunately, I haven't discovered any real magic yet, per se, in the physical world. So a lot of, I think kids get out of it once they realize it's not like they maybe envisioned in like a Harry Potter movie or something, where they get invited to Hogwarts and get to do real magic like that. But those that stick around really find the magic and the connection that we get to share with people, and how giving, it's more of like a gift that you get to give to somebody when you perform an effect well and you spend years and years practicing it in front of a mirror. Being able to perform it and give someone that perception is it's an incredible feeling, because it's a bit sacrificial, because once you know how it's done, you never get to experience that again the same way, and other people can still. And that's kind of a little bit about what we'll be talking about today, is just how everyone's a magician in a way. If you look at what a magician is, a magician has a vast esoteric knowledge of sleights, of psychology, of perception, where people are going to look and what they're going to think when they're actually looking there, and really kind of plays within the bounds of how limited our perception is, how most of us can focus on one thing fully at one time, but then things get kind of fuzzy the farther we go out in the periphery. And we're all a bit like magicians, because if you're an industry professional, you have a vast amount of knowledge about your industry and what you do. And when you deliver your product or service to somebody, it might feel a little bit like magic to them, because they have no idea what's going on. Like I recently just got EPV Wi-Fi and they put it in. It was pretty seamless. I don't know how that works. It is like magic. Like I have no idea how any of that stuff works. But so I'll go ahead and get into the talk. That was just a little bit of a background on who I am, what I do, and I might talk a little bit more about in detail about what I actually do within Chattanooga, and in my goals for Chattanooga with magic. But we'll go. I might get into that a little bit later. So now it's unlikely that I'm going to tell you guys something that you don't already know or don't already have some intuitive understanding of. However, that's far from my goal. Like my hope is to get you thinking about effect for a little bit longer than you might have otherwise. That way you might generate some of your own ideas, or you'll find a parallel that might spur a thought. And I would love to hear any of those thoughts that come along later, maybe during the Q&A, because I think that's where true learning comes in. Now, the definition of effect, that's a really broad question. And one of my favorite things to do is to, when I see a word that I'm trying to describe, I like to look up the actual definition and kind of see what I think about it. Like if it's still personal to me and it still rings true, because it is a pretty big question. What is an effect? Because it can mean so many things. Like to me, I think of a magic trick and the effect it's going to have on somebody, but to everyone else, it might mean something different. But a baseline, the definition is a change which is a result or consequence of an action or other cause. So to me, this definition is in direct correlation with how we behave to interact as humans. We all have an effect. or in other cause could mean something to do with nature or something that has happened indirectly or unintentionally. And then the word effect can also mean, a secondary definition is a lighting, sound, or scenery used in a play, movie, or broadcast. Now, when I read that, I don't restrict that to film. I see the effect of our environment, which is often designed either intentionally or unintentionally with effect in mind. Now, my definition of the word effect is very fluid. I see effect as a substrate to life. We are constantly affecting and being affected. And I think we experience a magical effect when we cross a certain threshold and we become aware of the complexity of life or a given situation and marvel at how unlikely what's turned out has turned out. Now, are we intentional with the effect that our business has? I'll use Apple as an example here, because most of us have at one point or another come in contact with one of their products in some way. Now, there's no denying they are well thought out, and most importantly, they are well thought out on the level of the individual. They focus so much on the user experience, and it all feels so intuitive and integrated. Most of us have no idea how most of these products work, but when they do, it feels like magic. Now, my favorite example, oddly enough, is their credit card, which it's incredibly transparent, and it encourages you to pay it off without paying interest, which was my intent initially. And that's far from what most credit cards are like. It's almost like you kind of have to dig for the information in your numbers. But taking the overall benefit and intention and motivation of the user from the start is a great way to be intentional with designing an effect for your customers. So being able to look into what would their intentions be and what would their motivations be for even approaching the product, and being able to look at that, because we're all, even as industry professionals, we're still users and consumers, and we still have that side of our brains that we can still empathize with people that might be approaching us for our services. Now, how is a magic effect created? The reason a magic effect works is because the audience does not know how it works. We can relate to this as industry professionals. We have a vast amount of knowledge in our given field, but it's not our job to tell everyone how it all works. We're there to provide our customers with the desired benefit or the outcome of our product or service. The more friction we can remove from that process, the more it should begin to feel like magic to them. We can see this done poorly when the user experience feels overly technical and difficult to understand. It can be very frustrating. Something remains constant though. The customer does not know how it works and feels lost. I believe our job as industry professionals is to condense our vast knowledge and provide an articulated, systematic experience to the customer that feels intuitive to them and gives them the power to feel like they had a hand in creating their own solution. Our job is to guide them through this process in their own hands, making sure there are no wrong answers. Now, here I'm going to talk a little bit about one of my favorite effects in magic, as well as one of the most famous principles, the magician's choice. Now, one of my favorite tricks to do is the ambitious card. It's an effect where a spectator's signed card rises to the top each time in a unique and fun way. I remember when I first, oh, you've got the cards. We're gonna try something. We're all gonna try an effect together. If you guys all brought cards along, it's gonna be really cool. It's part of it's gonna be kind of like a little beta testing for part of the virtual show that I'm working on in the future. But I remember when I first learned the ambitious card, and most of the phases that it would go through would happen in my hands, because I wasn't confident enough or perhaps brave enough to put the deck of cards in the spectator's hands and allow them to experience the card rising in their own hands. Because I thought, oh no, what if they mess something up, or they do this or they do that, and the whole thing gets ruined. But as I became more attuned with the audience and had performed enough, and I had an idea of what they were going to likely do in certain social situations, when I first starting out on any given field, it can be difficult to know what we can and can't allow the customer to do themselves, and the choices they can make and the ones we have to make for them. Now, here's where magician's choice comes into play. I will have laid out several choices that the spectator gets to choose from. This means that there are no wrong answers whatsoever. For example, I may have placed an ace of spades under a glass far away from the spectator. I may have placed a king of spades in front of the spectator and a joker in the middle. I offer them an absolutely free choice. However, what they don't know is that whatever card they choose, I have a different out or an effect prepared with that selection in the form of a grand revelation. The spectator feels like they know the rules of the game and they have a free selection, and they do. However, I've tailored their choices. Different people will make different choices, and you even get to a point where with practice, you can tell exactly what choices someone might make. If a spectator has been skeptical the entire night and perhaps even a bit challenging, they might go after the card that is under the glass furthest away from them, thinking that was the card I would least want them to choose. But it doesn't really matter because I've already thought about that. Now, for example, when we buy an iPhone, they don't ask us a bunch of technical questions about RAM, about processor chips, and all those technical things and all the technology that goes into it. They ask us how much storage we would like based on how much we use it to take photos and videos maybe, and what color we would like for perhaps our personality's sake. And the rest has been decided and tailored for us, and we like it that way, yet we feel like we got to make a genuine choice. Now, what effect do you and your business want to have on the world? This is a pretty broad question. I thought about this one a fair bit. Here, what I'm trying to get at is what are the cumulative effects of all of our Minotier effects, meaning that every effect we have on the world ripples outward and no one knows the outer limits of that. This could be seen in reference to our footprint, our green initiatives, or how we give back to our community. These are the things that might not have an obvious instant gratification result, but in time have a massive cumulative effect. And people love to buy things from companies that are conscientious of their effect on the outer world. Now, my next point is, how do you make people go, wow? And my answer to that is you give them choice, where none of the choices are wrong. You have something grand planned for them, no matter what they choose. And you let them take ownership and feel invested in the process. You create an environment that is well thought out on the level of the individual's experience. And I think we can all do that with the power of empathy, because we're all the same. When we all have two eyes and we see things the same way, and we all experience things very similarly. So we can really kind of dig deep and even just sit in different parts of a room and just kind of think about how it feels to sit there. There might be a spot that's like, like this could be done a little bit better. Maybe it could be a little more like this side of the room or that side of the room. But there's a lot of details that can go into these things. It might not seem like they have a big difference, but it makes a 0.01 change that over time has a cumulative effect. Now, how can you create a method or system that can create that effect consistently? So here's just kind of like a recap. First, we identify the complexity of what we're trying to offer. And then we break it down and simplify it so that it becomes a seamless user experience. And we can take our knowledge in our field to almost like create packages or choices that individuals can choose that most people would like to go with. And then from there, you can have add-ons for specific individuals that might be a little more picky. And let's see. Now, when I perform, I make sure that I love what I'm performing. People can feel it. Well, this is just a last little tidbit, which hopefully the effect will last a little longer than my talk did. I thought this would last a lot longer than when I wrote it. But something really important that I go out when I perform is people come up to me like after when I'm performing, whether it's a big show or a small show or a cabaret show or a private event or something big, and they always say, how do you perform like confidently? Like how do you get up there in front of the people that you're performing for, and do what you do? And the truth is, like I don't feel confident per se, like when I go perform. And sometimes I absolutely don't feel confident when I perform. Yet even when I quote unquote don't feel confident when I'm performing, people still afterwards perceive that I was confident in some kind of way. But I think it's really just a big illusion. One of my favorite magicians, his name's Juan Tamariz, and he wrote a book that I absolutely love, and he calls it The Seven Veils of Magic. And it's a book written on theory instead of like technical sleight of hand. And he talks about when he's performing that there's these mysteries that he doesn't understand. And one of them is that he loves what he does. Like he loves magic. And whenever he's out there performing, he knows that he loves it. And the audience can feel that he loves what he does. And he doesn't know how that works, and neither do I, but it's a really cool thing. And then he's super, super passionate about what he does. He spent like his lifetime learning about it, maybe even had a childhood experience where a problem just resonates and you almost spend your entire life trying to solve that problem for the world. And that's that passion that like lives on the inside, that even when you're performing or doing whatever you're doing in your field, people can feel that. And then lastly, he loves the people he performs for. Whenever I perform, I love the people that I'm performing for. And I always focus on that. Like sometimes I'll be driving to a show and maybe I've just had 3 shows back to back the previous day and I feel drained and I'm just not feeling it. I don't know if I can give my best. But then when I think about the people I'm performing for and that they showed up to my show and that I owe it to them to give them the best show that I possibly can, and I make it about them, they can feel that I love them like through that experience. And I think that is the perception of confidence in my eyes, instead of just me feeling like, and there is an element of practice and competence in whatever field it is. But once that stuff's taken care of, I think when you're actually going out and doing it, it becomes more about loving what you do, being passionate about what you do, and then loving the people that you're performing for. And I think that to me, that is magic, because I don't understand it and it's a mystery and I can't see it, but we know it's there. So to me, that's a huge example of magic that actually is in the world. Well, I actually finished my scripted talk early, but I still have plenty I can talk about. And I suspect that the effect that we're going to try to do shouldn't last more than 5 to 7 minutes. So I certainly have more than I can talk about. We started at 2:30 and the Q&A goes off at 3, right?
3:10.
3:10, okay.
Or well, yeah, 3 to 3:10 for Q&A.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, at this point, I'll just, I have a feeling people might be curious, like, what does a magician do in Chattanooga? And how in the heck do you make a living at that? Because I experience that all the time. Like when people tell people that I'm a magician, they're like, oh, like for kids' birthday parties? And I'm like, no, not for kids' birthday parties. And I love kids, like they're wonderful. But there's a whole different side of magic that is meant for just kind of breaking people's mold for just like 1 second, where they're like, wait, what? Like it's just it kind of just breaks their realm of possibility just for a minute. And just it's hard to explain, but it just kind of makes you question things, to think it just shifts your brain into thinking in a slightly different way for like a certain period of time. And then sometimes it just sticks with you. And that's what I love to give to people. And when I first started out doing magic, I was 12 years old. My uncle bought me a magic book. And my family was having a pretty rough time at the time, as I'm sure a lot of people could relate, for when they were 12. You know, you're a teen coming into adolescence, and you might be becoming aware of things that you weren't previously aware of. And things can get pretty crazy. And my solace was magic at the time, because my uncle, he bought me this magic book. And well, first he showed me a magic trick. He was on the couch and it was very simple. He had me pick a card, and I picked it. And then every time, impossibly, he could find it. And it blew my mind. And I thought that it was real magic. And I was really into Harry Potter at the time. And I thought what he was doing was like genuinely real. I thought that he had came up with some kind of ability. He's a really smart guy. I thought he had developed some kind of like sixth sense to where he could know what my card was. And I was just dying to like figure out, like, okay, like, how did you do that? Like, I want that ability too. And when he showed me, I still found it interesting. It didn't take away from me. And the next day he went and bought me a magic book at the Barnes and Noble. and he helped me go through the whole thing, or not the whole thing, but bits and pieces of it to kind of lay the groundwork. And from there, after that, the next week he went back to Boston, and I kept that book. And at the time, I'd been getting a lot of trouble in school, and I got kicked out of middle school twice, and then got put in an alternative school program. I wasn't the best middle schooler per se, but at that time, I didn't have anything else. I couldn't watch TV or play video games, but I still had this magic book, and I was able to learn that stuff and just kind of teach myself from the book. And then eventually, my dad started taking me to magic shops. I would go mow grass with him when I was about 13, begrudgingly. And every time afterwards, the treat was that I would get to go to a magic shop, and he would let me pick something out. Unfortunately, that magic shop's not there. They're kind of a dying breed because everything's online now, but it was a really cool experience going to that magic shop. But over the years, I just kind of cultivated the skill. I never planned on doing it for a living ever. Like, that wasn't my goal. It was just an obsession. I just loved it. And I would stay up all night in front of a mirror practicing sleight of hand, because that's how most magicians practice, is they look in a mirror and they see what their audience would see if they were performing. And it's a really cool tool to see the perspective and different angles of the audience. That way, when you go perform, you have a good idea of what your angles are, what's going to look good to certain people, and what you can do and what you can't do. And that's how most magicians that perform sleight of hand do their stuff. And then after just doing a slew of jobs around 18, I decided that I would go out and try to do magic full time. I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea how to sell anything. I had no idea how to communicate value. I just went to every restaurant in Chattanooga and was just like, "Hey, I'm Chase. I do magic. Will you hire me?" Like, I had no idea, no pitch, no nothing. And everyone said no. They were like, "No." But because I was 18, they didn't actually say no. It was actually a little more annoying than that. They said maybe. And they would just kind of like lead me on for like months, and then eventually someone would tell me no. But now, if someone's trying to say maybe, I make sure they say no. That way, I can check it off my list. But one person did say yes, and when I was a kid, I dreamt of performing on the Southern Belle. Like most people performing on cruise ships, like big Disney cruise ships. But I just see the Southern Belle and thought it'd be really cool to perform on there. So I went on the boat, and I came up with a little bit of a sales pitch since it was a ship. And I talked to John Reinhardt, which is an awesome guy. He owns the Southern Belle. And I told him, I was like, "Hey, like, big cruise ships, they have magicians, right? And they walk around performing." I was like, "Why don't you have a magician?" And he was like, "Well, I don't know." And I was like, "Well, I'm a magician. Can I perform on your boat?" And he actually said yes. I didn't get paid, so it was totally like pro bono, but it was the experience that I needed, just to like get myself out there and earn my jobs and stuff. And I did the first one, and it went really, really well. And because I've been practicing for years, and luckily my mom had made me do a serving job at Cracker Barrel for like a year before that, so I had somewhat of an idea how to approach like a table or a group of people. Um, and then after that, I gave up a bit on doing magic. I continued to do shows here and there for like $75 on the Southern Belle for like their big like holiday cruises and stuff like that. But I didn't pursue it full time because I think people typically don't take big risks unless it's like a necessity, unless like their life like demands it of them, and then they'll have the guts to do it. At least that's the way it was for me. So I just kind of took safe jobs and worked in insurance and dog daycares and just all kinds of different things until I just realized I couldn't do that anymore. Like, it wasn't me. Like I was trying. It just wasn't what I wanted to do. Like, the jobs that I was doing, like, it wasn't the value that I wanted to give to the world. Like, uniquely, that was personally me. So then I left my job in insurance, which I was so bad at. And this time I came home to tell my wife that I didn't have a job and not to worry. Like, I've always been pretty good at getting a job. Like, I never saw it as that hard because I had so many previous jobs. So I had a lot of experience in different areas. So I was like, "Oh, I'll go another job." But something told me not to do that. And I was about to walk into her office and tell her that I didn't. I didn't have that job anymore. I was going to get another one. But instead, I just like ran out the door and went to every restaurant in Chattanooga. And I was just cultivating like a sales pitch because I felt like I had an idea from all the cumulative experiences that I had had of what I could actually offer them. And by this point, I had an idea of what I could actually utilize magic for. And this is my favorite thing to do as a magician because I spent so much time looking in a mirror and thinking about the perspective of other people. So now when I close my eyes, I kind of think about like being in a perspective and being able to look around that perspective and see the opportunities that are there, that are already there, that we just might not be seeing at the time. So I thought like if I'm performing in a restaurant, that's great. Like I'm providing entertainment value. But what else could we do? So I asked my wife if she wanted to learn videography, and I bought some gear for her to do that. And then we started. Then I found after going to all the restaurants in Chattanooga, some friends of mine opened up a restaurant called Pizza Bros on Cherokee Boulevard. You guys might have heard of it. They have like the best pizza in Chattanooga, in my opinion. And they were like all about it, and they were psyched to have us there. They're like, when can you start? So we talked to them, worked out a bit of a contract, just a verbal agreement, and then we jumped in that Friday and started performing. And then my wife would record the whole session because I was thinking like magic makes people smile and it makes them laugh. And I was like, that's why like let that go to waste? Why not capture that? Because that's really beautiful marketing material just to have people in a space, in your space, like in a business, just happy, just naturally, because people break out of like a bit of a mold when they see a good magic trick. Like they kind of, especially when they're like around people like eating dinner, and then and it just became something like, we just started making content for them, and I started performing for them. And from the experiences that I had in restaurants, I had a really good idea of when to approach them and when not to approach them and when to kind of let them be. Typically, I learned that it's the best to approach them once the drinks are down, the menus are gone, because then I know that they've got the drinks, so they're not thirsty, and their food's on the way, and they've already ordered. There won't be any interference with servers and whatnot. So I do a little bit of a 5-minute show. We capture that. We would create content for them, and then from that, I just started thinking about, okay, so like we're already doing this, we're already doing these shows. Like, what else can we do to just like bring more value to the restaurant? So I started posting these shows like everywhere, like on Facebook, on Chattanooga Funds page, which has been like the best resource, like Chattanooga, which I think they're actually called Visit Chat now. I think I recently saw them change that. Yeah, so they're called Visit Chat now, but we utilize them. We utilize Facebook ads. And we just had such an incredible turnout, like to where over the year, we did it for an entire year. And then we brought in, they said that they'd already been open a year. And then from when we came in, there was a 30% revenue increase for the night that we showed up to do magic. And that's huge. And that was just from figuring out more and more ways to utilize what was already there, just taking advantage of what was already happening. It's like, once you start something, it's like, what are the unseen opportunities like around that can be utilized just to bring people in, just to give them a good time and whatnot. But that's kind of a little bit of my story about a little bit of what I do and in Chattanooga. And that was about a year ago when all that happened. And then since then, I've been working on a bigger show, and that completely got put on hold since this whole COVID thing happened. So that's still in the works, and I'm super excited about it. And that's going to be going on at the Dwell Hotel and the Boat Hotel whenever all this clears up, which I'm super excited about. It's going to be like a residency show, and I'm hoping just to have it in a bunch of different places and just to bring people, just kind of like I did for the restaurants. I want to bring people into Chattanooga. Like that is like my goal. Like I want, my dream for Chattanooga is to perform in the Tivoli Theater and fill it up, because I've never seen a local performer fill it up. And I think there's something terribly, terribly wrong with that. I think there should be local people like in our local theaters just packing it out. Like I think that's what I want to see Chattanooga become, and just a place for artists and performers to come and just have a spotlight and just be a place almost like a like a natural granola Vegas. I don't know what I'm kind of going for, but just kind of like I just want to see like just that culture like come in. My wife and I just went to Vegas a few months ago because we got the opportunity to go on to a TV show called Penn and Teller's Fool Us just last March. And I'm not sure if you guys know what that is, but it's just like a TV show where magicians try to go on and fool Penn and Teller, which are these big name magicians. And that was like an incredible experience. And like people have asked me if I plan on, once I get to where I want to be, like if I plan on like traveling or leaving Chattanooga. And the answer is no. Like I don't see like Chattanooga is holding me back. I hear like a lot of performers being like, oh, Chattanooga is holding you back. I need to go to this city or that city to make it. It's like, I really, really want to change all that. I want people to really see Chattanooga as a place where they can make it. And I think when Chattanoogans and locals support local artists like that and local entertainers, it just makes a huge difference. And then being able to make a sustainable living like in the city, being able to stay in the city. Because I think just being able to see like a really good show, like with a family, just like brings everybody together, like in a unified moment, and they can just appreciate something really, really cool. But let me check the time here. So we're at 2:57. I think we could go and try the virtual trick. Are you down for that?
Yeah, absolutely.
You got a deck of cards?
Yeah, I'm gonna turn this little background off so you can see them.
Cool. Okay, awesome. And I'm gonna take my camera and I'm gonna place it to where you guys can all see my hands. So I'll just take this like this, and you'll just I won't be able to see the screen anymore. So you'll have to let me know if you can see everything well.
Okay.
I can't really see that. Does that look good? Can you guys see that well?
I can see
That's good.
The pads are perfectly. Did I be able to see my cards?
You can do it for yourself, and I'm gonna be doing the same thing that you guys are doing.
Okay.
So as long as you guys can see my hands and just kind of follow along. Let's see here. Let's get this queued up. Okay, just give me just one moment.
Can't even do that.
Oh yeah, you can.
It's a mess.
Okay. Let me see. Okay, I had this ready, but it was a little bit small on my screen. So I'm gonna do it again. Let's see. Okay. Okay, some of the patterns are a little bit cheesy. I haven't completely adapted this to my show yet. So I'm reading from a book from one of my favorite magicians called Juan Tamariz. And if you guys are watching this, feel free to follow along. And this will work entirely if you're not even seeing it live. If you just follow along, this should work for you. Okay, so you can chuckle at the pattern if you want to, because it's pretty goofy, but I'll just read it as is because I think it's funny. By using special magical ways, I'll try to make something magical happen in your own home or wherever you are. We need 10 playing cards from any deck. Take out 5 red cards and 5 black cards. If you don't have a deck handy or you are at work, simply take 10 business cards or 10 blank pieces of paper and mark 5 of them with an X. You can let me know when you've got that together, because that'll give me a good idea when everyone else might too.
Got it.
You got it? Okay, awesome. Now, in any case, separate the cards into 2 groups according to the color or to the marks if you're not using playing cards. Take one of the piles and shuffle it audibly. So just like that. All right, and then set the packet aside and then mix the other one. All right, now that the 2 piles are thoroughly shuffled, we take 1 pile into each hand, and both piles are face up. And now we put the first face up card of one packet on the table, And then on top of it, the first face-up card of the other packet, just like that. And we continue in this way to form a single pile of alternating colors. Just like that. You got that?
Mhm.
Perfect. All right, now pick up the cards from the table and turn them face down in your hands. All right, now cut the cards and complete the cut in the hands or on the table, just like when you play cards. You can cut once more and complete the cut. The cards are getting more and more mixed. You can go and cut again and then complete the cut. All right, are you following along?
Mhm.
Awesome. All right, and now pay attention. Whoever wants to may cut and complete the cut once more. Those who don't want to should cut anyway. All right, now as you can see, this is entirely up to you. This is the way the cards are thoroughly shuffled and cut. Now, pick up the pile, always face down, and hold it in one of your hands. With the other hand, you'll have to perform another action. Take the top two cards and turn them over together and replace them on top. This way, all the cards are face down except for those two. And now you can cut and complete the cut. And now again, take the two cards that ended up on top and then turn them over together and replace them on top. And then cut and complete the cut once more. With all of this, we have turned over 4 cards. No need to worry if you have to turn over a card that is already face up. Just turn over whichever 2 cards happen to be on top without worrying about whether they are face up or face down. Now, cut and complete the cut. And then turn over the top 2 together again. Repeat this sequence several times and cut and complete the cut. Turn over the top 2 cards together and then cut and complete the cut. Are you done?
Yes.
Yeah? All right, good. Now, turn the top 4 cards over together, or turn over 6 if you prefer. As you please, any even number of cards. Now cut and complete the cut. Now comes the astrology bit. Those who were born from January 1st to June 13th, turn the top 2 cards over. Those born from July 1st to December 31st don't do anything. At this point, we have reached total chaos. Spread the cards between your hands without altering their order and see how many cards you have face down. Okay, I've got 4 cards. How many do you have down, face down?
6.
6? Okay. Okay. Now, maybe somebody doesn't have any cards turned over because he unturned them by chance. It makes no difference. Some have 5, some have 3, some all, whatever. Take the cards into your hands and deal them one at a time into 2 piles. In other words, take the card on top of the packet and put it onto the table to your left and the next one, just as it is, without turning it over to the right. Continue this way until you have no cards left. Are you done?
Yeah.
Awesome. Pick one of the piles, lift that pile off the table, and turn it over completely. And put it on top of the pile that is still on the table.
Okay.
Do you remember that you shuffled at the beginning? Yeah. Now please shuffle again, because none of what we've done does anything. It was pure entertainment. Go on, shuffle. Are you done?
Sure.
Okay. And now for the big moment. Keep holding the cards in your hands because you're about to feel an almost electrical sensation. I'm going to pronounce the word magic with power and energy. Magic. Tell me, Bob. Tell me, how many letters does the word magic have?
5.
5? Okay. Only a moment ago, some of you had 2 cards face down. Somebody had 8 and somebody had none. And you had 6 and I had 4. But I've made some cards turn over in your hand so that all of you now have 5 and no more than 5 cards face down. Let's look at my own packet first. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 cards are face down. Let's look at my own packet. Okay. I've got 5. Now, how many do you have face down?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
5. Okay.
Just really bad at showing them off.
And you had 6 before.
I did.
Now, all of you look at your packets, counting and separating the face down cards. Everybody has 5. The listeners who have received the magic through the special waves on can call us. Those who didn't get it usually, okay, I won't read that bit. All right, wait a minute. Also have done something secretly, something you haven't noticed. When I said magic, I tried to separate the positive things from the negative. And in my packet, look, I separated the 5 black cards, which are all face up, right? Which are all face up. And all the red cards are face down.
I like that too.
Yes, I have 5 cards separated from the black cards. And you?
Yeah,
You had the same thing?
I did.
Okay, awesome. And those at home too. That's the incredible power of magic. All right, and that's it.
Awesome. Thanks, Chase. I don't know.
Yeah,
It confuses me. I'm excited about it.
yeah, it's a pretty weird, it's a different style of magic that I'm used to, since I can't do the close-up stuff that I normally do for people. But yeah, it's an adaptation for sure, but it's still really fun. And what's cool is it fools me too. I don't even know how it works.
Well, thank you so much. And if you don't mind, we'll see if we have any questions. I don't see any at the moment, but if anyone has something on their mind for Chase, just throw it in either the Q&A section, or if you want in the chat, I'll be glad to pick it up there. We just have 1 minute left, it looks like. So, and I don't see any questions, but just wanted to thank you so much, Chase. I know these are kind of crazy times, and you're definitely having to adapt what you do on a daily basis, and we appreciate you taking the time out to be here with us today and share a little bit about effect, because it's definitely, you know, there is a magic to just about anything that people do, but we don't approach it that way always. So it's really cool to hear it from your perspective and to apply that to our roles.
I saw a question.
Oh, did it pop up?
I saw one person ask, did I fool Penn and Teller?
Yeah.
And the answer to that question is not yet. So last time when we went to Vegas, it's a crazy story. The same uncle that got me into magic when I was 12 years old, he has spent his entire life working to solve problems for Homeland Security, and he works with X-ray technology. And he like super high-tech stuff. And when I got asked the first time, we developed an effect together that utilized X-rays plus like magical principles and created an effect using magic or using X-rays. The only problem with X-rays is that, have you guys ever seen an ultrasound? And the person's like, hey, look, here's the baby. And it's like the ultrasound, and it's like, where's the baby? Like they had to point it out. It was a lot like that, to where it was really difficult to use the X-ray. And I'd been studying it for a long time, but once we got on stage, the stage dynamics with what went on stage. The Wi-Fi that was connected to our computer that was relaying the signal to me got completely blocked up. There was on a 5-minute delay. So I was on stage expecting things to be like this, and things that I was expecting to happen like that were happening 5 minutes later. So it was an interesting experience and definitely a learning one. However, they are doing a Christmas special, and they asked me to potentially come on for that. So that's what I'm working on this summer, is to get ready to do, to go back to Vegas, hopefully, and give this another shot. Around the fall time, I think. And this time around, we'll be doing an effect that I designed entirely myself, and it will be completely rehearsed, and just it'll be like a true theater show, as in there won't be any variability, because I don't want there to be any variables when it's something like that again. So it's going to be Stranger Things themed. So it's going to utilize similar magic principles to what we just did, to where everyone at home that's watching the TV will be able to participate, and it would work in a similar fashion. Yet it would have a pattern that was based on the Stranger Things TV show. And then whatever the revelation would be at the end, we're creating a light wall, just like in the first season, where the lights would blink from the other side, and it would communicate messages. And that's how the revelation is going to be at the end. So that's what I'm working on this summer, to hopefully give it another shot. But yeah, thanks for asking. And it was a really cool opportunity.
We hope to see you, bring home a prize back to Chattanooga. So thank you so much. And I think we're going to take a very short break, or do you want to roll right into the next session, Austin?
Awesome.
Thank you so much, Chase. Thank you, Casey. I appreciate y'all today.